Roll up, roll up. Welcome to Whose Turn Is It Anyway? I'm Davey. I'm the first player for our next series of podcasts, or I should say episodes. I'm here with Rob.
Hello.
And Adrian.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about AI within the board game industry. First things first, how is everyone?
Yeah, I'm fine. I've been recovering from a cold, as it feels like everybody else is at the moment.
Yeah, there's definitely one going around. I might sound a bit gruff and, well, we edit the sniffles out, but I'm suffering from a cold as well.
Well, I haven't had a cold
boo.
yet, so I haven't had to get over one, and I'm not suffering, so I'm sure that I will get hit pretty hard after this podcast. But no, I'm all good. All good.
So, we're jumping straight into it. What games have we been playing recently? You got anything of interest, Adrian?
Well, I've pretty much been gaming in board game spurts, something my doctor has said is common at my age. So I have only done full day gaming since the start of 2024. So I was working through, and I think I've worked out that I've played 14 new games, and at time of recording it's just turned March. So 14 brand new games as well as playing a bunch of others. So it's quite hard to pick one out of that because most of them were really good. But
less spurts, more waves, isn't it?
Yeah.
More tidal waves.
Like tsunami.
Yeah.
Possibly. Something along those lines. But yeah, I think the one I'll probably best talk about, because it seems quite timely, is the Kickstarter's live now, I think. Or maybe the episode going out, it'll be just finished, which is Galactic Cruise. So Galactic Cruise is a new, quite heavy Euro game about going on leisure cruises into space. And I know we talked about it a little bit before on our Essen episode as well, because I think you and JP both quite enjoyed Galactic Cruise. Is that right, Davey?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Galactic Cruise. It felt very Lacerda-esque.
I would agree.
But it felt a little more forgiving, and it had a little bit more guidance of what to do.
I don't know if I agree with the forgiving part. What I would say is that it thematically makes so much more sense than any Lacerda I've played. Because it's like, what steps are you doing? Okay, well, I'm selling tickets to the cruise. I am then putting the ship together, and I'm then sending people into space, and they're going on their voyage. And all of those steps make a lot of sense thematically, what you're doing. So I think it's just as crunchy as sort of some of maybe the light to mid end of Lacerda's.
It did remind me of Gallerist more than probably... I had not played Gallerist until recently, but the whole way you can kind of knock the other person off and you get extras for that, it's very Gallerist.
It felt in that range of sort of Gallerist, Kanban, maybe Vinhos, that kind of complexity.
Yeah, see, I'd still say the reason I said forgiving is because Gallerist is the one that uses that same technique where you can't get locked out of doing said thing, whereas with Kanban you can, and with Vinhos you can. So
true.
It felt a little bit more kind of variable with what you could do, but you obviously had a set kind of cycle that you needed to do and goals to do.
Which is where I think the Lacerda comparison comes in, because he's well known for building you have to do like a flow of things, and then quite often you have to start back at the beginning almost, but you've got more of an engine. And I really, really enjoyed it. I've just backed it because it went live today on Kickstarter as we're recording. So nice. I have just...
What backer number were you, Adrian?
1, 2, 3, 4. Quite happy with that. And I just think it's a really solid heavy Euro that there are some people that I play with, not in this room, that I wouldn't enjoy teaching Lacerdas to. Mm-hmm. I think I would get away with teaching Galactic Cruise to those people because of how thematically it makes sense and how you can kind of explain each part as it goes along, so you can explain the need of getting people on board and building it and all that.
So that was one of my memories with Galactic Cruise, is we had a very eccentric guy who
I remember you saying
taught us how to play, and he started off by being like, these people, they want to go into there might be a stag do who want to go into your cocktails and then bowling area and then do this, and then for the countdown he actually did like a countdown and then he broke up the phases of how to do.
He got a standing ovation, right, when he walked into our hotel.
Did he?
He actually got a standing ovation from everyone that was playing board games in the evening.
Yeah, it's, because he did do the countdown very well, but he had a crowd of people watching him do the teach of a board game, and that's, you need quite a lot of charisma for that.
That's quite impressive in
yeah,
itself.
Exactly. So I can see your theory and your motivation behind being able to teach other people, and the fact it actually makes sense within its theme.
I think there's games that are a lot lighter that are about the same teach. And so for those people who perhaps think, I wouldn't fancy teaching you like a route or a Lacerda or something with lots of extra rules in it, this is, I think, a nice balance of the two, and yet still keeps that puzzle in place. So really like the look of it. Played the prototype on Gaming Rules, and it looked great then, and I've seen the art assets since, and it looks even better.
Yeah.
And just, really enjoyed everything about it. Everything from... I knew it was going to be a fun game to play again, because I lost by 4 points, and it's because I made one mistake right near the end where I took the wrong tile off my own board. No. And if I'd put another one on, I'd have got those 4 points. And I was like, okay, fine. When it's that tight and that close, that the one mistake, but you can visually, sometimes with these games, you can't see where the mistake came from. I could clearly pinpoint where that mistake was in the game and go, okay, well, next time I kind of know what to look for, and I feel like I'm going to gain experience and reiterate on that much better than some other games of that sort of weight where I sometimes struggle to see where the puzzle...
You kind of feel bad because you can't progress with your own ability with the game, and you can't get better.
And for me, I think I've talked about it, but I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before, is I quite like a heavy game, like a heavy Euro game or a midweight Euro game, but I like to then be able to see, and I don't want to have to play it 3 times to understand the flow of the game. Mm-hmm. And I could see the flow. I would do things better than the second time, but I could see the flow from the first playthrough. Which, to be fair, is how I felt about most Lacerdas as well, is that I could see what I needed to do 3 turns in. And it was exactly the same with Galactic Cruise. So really looking forward to it. Really glad, because I passed up an opportunity at Essen to sit down, because I'd have been with 3 random people, and I was like, I won't. And then you guys went and played it and had a great time. And I was like, okay, maybe this is one for me. And people talk about being lighter. They say it's heavier. I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think it's middle.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit heavier than the Gallerist, but not as heavy as Weather Machine, if you want to stick it in between some Lacerdas.
Yeah, I'd say that. It's certainly less opaque than the Weather Machine, because, again, the Weather Machine, it doesn't really... It does make sense, but in a really abstract way.
Yeah. Destroy the atmosphere so we can learn from the atmosphere. It's like... Or learn from the weather. This feels a bit like, okay, so it seems counterproductive. But
I think that's where Galactic Cruise is going to shine, and I think it's going to win a lot of people across to play in that game, because it will be much easier to teach than some of the Lacerdas.
Yeah, cool. Look forward to playing it.
Me too.
Yeah.
In January 2025.
Are you not going to get to play it before then?
I really hope so.
Oh, nice.
We know some people with prototype copies, so I'm hoping we can tap them up for a game somewhere.
Yeah, a galactic promise. Right. How about you, Rob?
A bit like Adrian, we've been on a lot of board gaming weekends, so I've had loads of time to play loads of new games. Games that I traditionally would probably have thought were a little bit too heavy for my liking, but I've actually enjoyed a large selection of them.
It's like when you confuse one art game for another art game.
Yeah, I stupidly confused the Gallerist for Art Society.
So good.
So I was mentioning to Adrian that if anybody remembers the old video game Broken Sword, and I thought, the Gallerist is, it's really that kind of art style. And Adrian looked very confused, but he was like, okay. And then we set up the game, and I was like, this isn't what I thought it was. And we proceeded to play it. And that's a little bit above
At that moment, he knew
I fucked up. I fucked up big. But no, I enjoyed the experience, not necessarily the game, because I think it's a little bit too much out of my comfort zone. But I get why people love it. But the game I wanted to speak about was Furnace, which surprised me a lot, because there's not a lot in the game, as in it's not a massive board, it's not a massive box, but the complexity was great, and it's a lovely little engine builder. And I usually struggle, the first time I play games like that, I normally really struggle. I kind of figure it out about sort of 3/4 of the way through the game, But I picked it up and just got it immediately. And it's not a very complex game. The complexity comes with the people that you're kind of playing with and what you're trying to achieve. But I absolutely loved it. It was a quick game. We had an hour to kill. And we sat and played it and had an absolutely fantastic time.
It's a great game.
Yeah, it was really, really good. I was really impressed with it. To the point where I'm probably going to end up getting it because I can play stuff like that with the kids.
Yeah, it's and there's advanced rules where you have to freeze everything in order.
Yes.
And I tend to suggest just don't do that. Like, it sounds like a really tricksy puzzle to do, but there's so much in there already with having to remember and work things out that the idea of keeping everything in place seems a bit extra.
Yeah, I feel like if you play the game a lot, it might come as a nice variation. But if you're just sitting down as a filler game, it's good as it is.
It was great, and we had a good time playing it as well. And it was a nice little palate cleanser of all the heavy games that we were playing, or heavy games for me, not necessarily everybody else. But no, absolutely loved it, and yeah, probably gonna end up picking that up at some point. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, so.
It's been burning in your heart ever since, hasn't
I've thought about it a lot,
to
be honest. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, I genuinely just enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So
it was last year. I think it was my favourite game to show people. So the year before it was It's a Wonderful World. Last year was Furnace, and then this year so far has been Far Away. And they're all those quite similar. Nice, simple to teach, but give you a really cool engine building thing. Yeah. So yeah, I have to agree. Furnaces, I enjoy teaching it as much as I do playing it.
I normally suck at engine builders, but there was enough options there that I wasn't relying on one card to kind of make it all work. There were enough options there that if somebody wanted the card I could see the workaround really quickly.
Yeah.
Which was great, and I loved it. And like I say, it was a nice little palate cleanser.
You're never starved of resources, which are nice because of the way that the bidding mechanic works and the betting. Like within the auction itself, we can get other resources, and it's just a nice fresh twist on a typical engine builder, isn't it?
One of my favourite things is the compensation part, because obviously if you win a card, so if you're the highest bid on there, you win the card, you add it to your engine. If you have one of the lower discs, there's a compensation across the top, which is you gain something or you convert something.
Yeah.
And there's nothing funnier than someone putting a really low number thinking they're going to lose the card, and then
no one else bidding.
Yeah, no one else bidding, so they win the card and it ruins their future compensation because they were hoping to be compensated 2 steel there, and then further down they knew they were going to turn 2 steel into
some oil or something,
like coal or whatever it is, and they then don't get that first compensation because they accidentally won it.
Which ruins the whole thing.
Further down the line, ruins their other bid. And I think that is the genius, of Furnace. The engine building's great, but the compensation makes it just something extra.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. So, yeah, like I say, I'll probably be picking that up in the future because it was really good fun.
Yeah. Nice and quick as well.
Yeah,
45 minutes
yeah.
once you've had a teach, I think.
I think we had an hour, and that was including the teach, and we were finished in about an hour.
It was about an hour, I think 50 minutes.
Yeah, so it was
really,
really good.
Setting up from Joel's horribly managed box where bits were everywhere.
It came with all the expansions. He chucked in all the expansions, wasn't it? And we had to kind of separate it.
Thank you for lending us the game.
Yeah, we were very grateful.
You're not having my 3D printed insert, it's mine.
Fair enough. That's your right, and you chose to excise it. That's fine.
So for me, I played Beast again, and I think I spoke about Beast before, but I haven't played as the Hunter. So I have played a lot of games, but I'm going to talk about them in another episode, I think. So I'm going to talk about Beast. I really enjoy it as a hidden movement game. It just works. You can kind of always guess. It was me, Curly, and Tambo. Curly was the Beast, and me and Tambo were just the Hunters. I feel like my Hunter was a little bit busted, which was the Trap Hunter, but when there's 3 player, you play on a side of the board where there's only 2 zones, so you only have to put traps in 2 places.
Right, okay.
So it's a 50-50 chance of where he's going. I know you've got all of the environments and stuff, but you had to hunt the villages. The villages are here. I'm going to put the trap here because he has to attack here. And the Hunters won both games. So we got 2 games in the end.
Oh wow, did you?
Yeah. I'm not sure Curly enjoyed playing the Beast as much because he felt like we were just on him all game.
The larger map makes a huge difference.
And I think that
game.
is it. And also, as I said, I think the trap character is a little bit busted for the 3-player. It seems strong. I mean, other people may have had other experiences, but I felt like I kept drafting the card that brought that ability card back to my hand for health. So I was getting 2 items every round. I was picking up all the item cards as well,
which are powerful.
Meaning I can dump the traps back out for free. And then I was getting health back from the item deck that I was drawing from, so I was able to heal myself back up after losing said health. So it seemed very, very strong and quite easy to be able to trap Curly. I was making him discard cards of my trap, which cards is like your tempo as the beast. You have to kind of try and keep your big moves till the end, so you can kind of do a big flurry at the end and like outlast the hunters. It's very cat and mouse. But I did think I really enjoyed playing Beast, and I enjoyed playing the Beast, but I didn't know if I'd enjoy playing the Hunter, and I did really enjoy playing the Hunter. So yeah, if you're on the fence about that game, I definitely probably would get it, because you know, if you enjoy that type of game, you're looking at it, just get it. I think it's better, in my opinion, than Fury of Dracula, and I can't really think of many other hidden movement games I've played. I think I've played...
Have you played Letters of Whitechapel or Whitehall Mystery?
No.
They're both very good.
You love those games, don't you?
So I prefer Whitehall Mystery because it's quicker and simpler. Letters of Whitechapel, you have to keep returning to the house and have to kind of work out where you're returning to almost. Whereas Whitehall Mystery, you are quite gruesomely dumping body parts in each corner of London. And the police kind of have to cordon you, but it always ends up as a close game. Whereas Fury of Dracula, I've had some really not close
games, yeah.
And
the very first scenario, Tambo threw us into the one where it's like a very hunter bias.
Right.
So we literally the first day we won.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I think that put Curly on a bit of a bad fitting anyway, with it being like, oh well, that didn't feel great, and it's like. Tambo was just like, yeah, I did pick the one that was really easy for the hunters. So Curly was like, look, I know I said I think the beast is overpowered, but we need a bit more of a balanced one. So we flipped the scenario and played the other one, and it was a lot closer. Got to the second evening, and then I think we actually killed the beast.
Wow.
But Curly was playing a very stealthy beast. And we were quite lucky with 2 of the times while tracking him of where he was. We just he's there. We were bang on each time, so it wasn't easy for him. But I basically enjoy that game.
The artwork of that game is
solidified.
The artwork's
it's a shame about the standees. The little cardboard standees aren't very good because the bottom base becomes really loose. It's a standard where you've got like the female base and then the male. Or both of them with an insert, you put them together and they slowly get looser and looser the more you play it, so eventually they're just like falling apart and you think, oh come on, there's other things you could have done here. But I know the expansion or the upgrade has miniatures, just an extra 30-40 quid or whatever it is.
The thing is, it would be worth the price cost in that game.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you do play it a lot, because like you said, those standees are going to fail over time, and it is a great game. I really enjoyed it. I've only ever played as the Hunter. I've played it twice, and the first time I played the Hunter, the Hunters are very different.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't play the Hunter properly, I think it can kind of seem ridiculously difficult, but if you play the Hunter,
you have to play together.
The way they're designed to be played, and the way that certain hunters interact with other hunters, you can actually chain abilities between characters, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. But if you don't do that, it can make it a really tough game.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Like, we were playing with pretty much open information, but we're conveying that information to each other.
Yeah.
So okay, we're giving the beast all that information as well, but it actually was more beneficial for us to play together and give that information away than to just try and play our own game. We had to really play together.
And I think that is when it's at its best, because and I think Whitehall Mystery and I think Sniper Elite, if I remember correctly, both have a rule that says you can't secretly converse with each other. You have to keep the information, like the person can overhear you because they're supposed to be close by. So they like Beast is a bit different because they can't speak English. I'm assuming the Beasts, but
Well, I don't know. Some of them like spirits and stuff. So maybe.
But the idea that they can hear you because they're nearby, so they can understand what you're conversing about,
Yeah.
and I think that's the best because I've never sweated harder than when I think I'm going in the right direction and I can hear the other three all talking about closing their net about where I'm just about to go, and you're like, nah, I can't go there now. I've got to do something else. Completely like sidetrack. And yeah, I like that about hidden movement games.
Yeah, it's, you feel very tense and
Yeah.
you feel like you're being chased, even though you're all sitting around a cardboard, board.
That's why I don't
Never
think
sweat more.
I don't think I could play the Beast because I hate that tense feeling. It makes me uncomfortable, and my poker face is really crap.
But it's different to hidden roll. I find I really enjoy hidden movement, and I don't mind being the hunted person in hidden movement. I don't like hidden roll games, and I feel like it's a different type of pressure.
Yeah, it is absolutely. But I don't like.
You don't
that.
like either of them.
No, it's not that. It's more like Star Wars Rebellion.
Yeah.
Like that when they're getting close, and I'm like, oh Christ, I don't like this. Like it makes me feel quite uncomfortable. So I'm like, oh, I don't like it. So if somebody is getting close to my position, I think if they just watched me, they'd kind of figure out if they were close or not,
That's the fun part though.
Oh, well, yeah.
See that bead of sweat run down your brow and drip onto the board as they get closer and closer.
And then shout at me for getting water on the board.
Yeah. So on to our main segment. In this episode, we're going to be talking about AI. So I'm sure you've all heard the murmurings and the whispers about AI slowly creeping into the board game industry, and there's been a lot of controversy, and I'm sure we've got people here at the moment who probably sit on the opposite sides of their opinions. So any opinions that we are going to talk about in this episode are just that. It doesn't. We aren't experts on the subject either.
By any means.
By any means. It's kind of a healthy discussion about something that's kind of slowly getting into our industry, and we thought it'd be quite a good thing to maybe discuss and see where it's going and kind of get everyone's feelings about the whole subject. So I, first of all, thought, you know what, I'm going to get AI to do my work for me today. So I've got AI to plan out the podcast structure, and I'll be dropping some of its hints in for people who maybe are looking to make a podcast and don't have AI tools at their disposal. We don't usually use this, by the way. This is a disclaimer. I just thought it was very fitting of the episode to drop this in.
For anybody that's met us, do we kind of look like the group that has a plan? Like?
I just had the thought that Davey went, AI, what are my feelings on AI?
I wish it could do that. It'd make your life a lot easier. And it'd be like one of the old 8-ball, but obviously a lot more accurate.
The magic
8-ball. Yeah. What should I do now, AI? It might be a good experiment one day. Just live your life the day of Davey with AI controlling his life.
Could you imagine if it was like one of the greatest days of your life? How sad you'd be that you had no control over it and you had a wonderful day. That's terrifying.
It would be terrifying. It's like a bit like the Truman Show, I guess, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Other than no one's watching, or probably would want to watch.
No. That's a different subject.
Yeah. So, first of all, the AI has told me that what we should be discussing is recent news and events that are happening within the industry about AI. So, I'm going to kind of bottleneck it. So, AI has actually been within the board game industry for quite a while, but obviously with more... They are kind of just as complex, but they're more kind of traditional games. So chess has been using AI for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's always been a good way to kind of, for people to practice and... Like, have you guys ever used AI to practice chess or anything like that? Do you play chess?
I've played the computer at chess, which is not really the same thing, but...
It's not modern AI, is it?
No.
So was it Go was the recent one though where...
Go was the really recent one where it offended almost an entire culture of people, because the idea that Go couldn't be beaten by an AI was a bit of a cornerstone of what they were AI can beat chess because that's a lesser game than Go sort of thing. I'm not saying whether it is a lesser game or a better game or anything like that, but the idea that now AI could beat like a world master at Go kind of set their world on fire and have turned it upside down. It was a big deal.
Yeah, because you were speaking to me about this, so then I kind of watched the episode of where it was just kind of short snippets of it, but where they had the AI up and there was a guy moving the pieces as the AI was telling him what to do, and the pro looked distraught. It was absolutely crazy.
Well, yeah,
how quickly this AI picked it up as well.
He'll forever be known as the guy who lost to a computer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was it Gareth Southgate that missed the penalty?
Yes.
And got like known for it?
Yeah.
That's him now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's been the recent developments, which is quite scary in some aspects of how the machine learning. So I guess I probably should have started with a brief description of AI, just so you don't know what it is, because at the moment it's not really artificial intelligence. It's kind of something we've tacked on. It's more deep machine learning, where it basically learns off of us and the internet, where we've got vast quantities of data. It can extrapolate said data and kind of correlate it into answers, and it can do it in nanoseconds depending on how big of a processing. So I think Google's one, Genesis, is like one of the biggest ones, and that thing is absolutely crazy what it can do. You can literally put an image in front and it can tell you what the image is and what. So they put street art that's coming out, so 3D street art that looks like it's real, and the AI goes, oh, that's some sort of street art that they've used, and basically it will describe the image to a T.
Wow.
Which is crazy, because it knows the difference, and also it would know kind of very small details of an image that you wouldn't normally. So it had a air stewardess doing their usual like starting routine, but it was just a still image of him opening his mouth, head backwards, like in a silly pose. And the AI goes, oh, that's an air steward doing the first thing. It looks like he's making it a bit more jovial than usual, and went over all this stuff, and you think, oh Jesus, that's very advanced.
I'm more worried that AI's in planes.
But it couldn't do the exact math of two rockets going together though, because they've had to make it so that it's only getting data from humans, so it can't do a precise subject.
We're a wonderful source of information.
Yeah, well, this has come to its own downfall in some aspects. So there's a lot more other news bits, really, but try and streamline it down to games. There's also AI Pictionary, I think that's coming out.
Oh, right.
Where you can use AI within your Pictionary game. I'm guessing you get it to draw an image, and then people have to try and guess what it is. You get the AI to draw the image for you, and off you go. So Pictionary jumped onto the bandwagon there, so that was quite a recent new game. It sounded interesting, at least a little bit different.
We just did a quiz recently where they used AI artwork. They told the AI what kind of artwork it needed to be, what kind of game it needed to be, and it tried to reproduce the cover or whatever, all of those kind of things will absolutely sort of help with that, but can also obviously be a point of frustration, I think. I don't know whether we're coming onto that.
Which is where we're leading to. No, it's a natural course of things. So, as the AI said, this is going to be our deep dive into the AI industry, where basically we're exploring the impact of AI in game design, gameplay, and player experience, etc. So it leads nicely onto that, where it's going to be a lot easier for designers to make games.
Yep.
Which is the bit I agree on.
Yep.
I see it as a wheel of industry, and there's been these pinnacles within each industry. So when the first massive sewing machines came out, the automated ones, everyone was worried because humans were going to lose their jobs. Everyone was going to lose their jobs. But it kind of went the other way, and it made a lot of these things cheaper for people to buy, which meant their quality of life would go up. I feel like with AI, we're probably going to have a similar experience.
So for board games,
board games, we're going to have cheaper games come out for the designers, but then for the people that do great art, people will be able to tell the difference, and that means they'll probably be able to put a better price tag on.
I think it will be easier for smaller developers to make high quality games, at least high quality art without the cost involved. I think for the larger developers, I think because the teams that they have in place, I don't think it's going to make that much difference to the bigger developers.
See, this is where it's interesting because Stronghold Games are using AI, and Stronghold Games made Terraforming Mars, so they're not small.
No,
Fricks Games.
Fritz Games.
Is it not Fricks Games?
Stronghold are the publishers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think they're the ones that you can see their little stronghold on the side of Terraform Mars. But they've done it for the Prelude 2.
Yeah.
And their Kickstarter. They're using AI. And this is where it starts to get a little bit murky because we don't mind smaller developers using it, at least how I feel. But when you start getting big developers just...
Yeah, so I do feel quite differently on this because I don't think final products should be using AI. I think it's great for your prototypes, and we can talk about design, but I think it's absolutely fantastic for certain design philosophies and working through designs. But I think from a final artwork point of view, I disagree. I think all companies should still ideally be using human generated art. I'd say for prototypes, I think it's great, and I think it's also good for if you've got a template. So the Stronghold Games thing was all about, they were saying they were only using it to generate the templates. So they had all the art separated and all of the information in Excel tables, and they were using that, if I remember correctly, to then input it very quickly into their templates. And I think that is a fairly good use of it because otherwise it's someone sat there for hours just dragging and dropping information into every single piece of card, and I think that's fine. But when it comes to a skilled sort of piece like art is, yeah, I would ideally like not to, and I have sort of forgone backing a couple of games because you can clearly see where they're using AI art.
Yeah. But see, for me, if it lowers the cost of a game and they put that cost forward, because there's a great point where someone went, well, AI is just learning off of people. You're ripping off a load of people's art. But isn't that what a load of artists who would imitate another artist are doing anyway? That person has learned from the other person's art. So as long as that cost gets pushed to the consumer, and we know the difference, so you know if a person's made that art, because at the moment you can tell, that's what you're paying for. So one's kind of like an artisan, and the other one's going to be machine processed how it comes at a lower price point. But that's how industry works now, or
some of that art. If you look at some of the AI artwork that's come about, they've literally taken the foreground of one image and the background of another image and put them on top of each other, and then gone, "Here's new art." And you're like, but it's not. You've taken two pieces of artwork and you've composed one on top of the other. And because AI has then done that, you kind of feel free to be like, oh, it's fine. But if you did that for yourself and you literally like took your little snipping tool and went round one and put it on top of the other, you would feel like you cheated someone. Just because AI has done it for you is not...
But then that's different. If it's blatant ripping off, like Power World was pretty on the nose, if anyone saw that, where it used AI. Well, they said they haven't used AI to create their Pokemon, but and they're not in Pokemon, they're pals. They look like rip-offs of Pokemon, but it's like AI generated. But that looks so on the nose, it's like nearing copyright. And that's where I think there's a morally grey area where, yeah, okay, you can use it for your art, but then if you're starting to actually rip off other artists, then whoa, you can't be doing that.
I think the trouble is it's really hard to tell. It will drag images up from quite far into... I've sort of looked at a few series where people talked about how much a lot of AI, not all of them, but a lot of AI art images are like design me a tattoo, and all you have to do is look 3 Google pages down and you can find one that's nearly identical. But you have to look through a few pages, and it's so hard to do that due diligence if AI is...
Well, you can just reverse Google search it.
To some extent, but that doesn't always work either. You can't quite get a positive match. I also think today we'll start saying, well, it's fine for the smaller publishers, and the next thing we know, we've got Ian O'Toole with a cardboard sign out begging for money on the street because we've literally said to him, your artwork is not needed anymore in the industry.
See, but this is where I don't think that will happen, because it's not like we don't have people making furniture bespoke. We don't have people making these products still, because we know the handmade ones are better than the ones that a machine has made, i.e., in this sense, art. Our human eye can tell the difference by looking at that human-made art compared to AI, and the price point will be the difference.
I don't think they'll pass the cost saving on though.
And this is where it can fall down. Yeah, this is. I feel like I'm quite a utopian. I've got a utopian view of AI. I think it's going to make us a lot better, but I know a lot of people don't have that view.
Or I think it will push Ian O'Toole's price through the roof, or what they'll charge for having real will then double in price now, and so.
But hasn't it kind of got that way with board games at the moment anyway?
But in what way are we?
It's already inflated to such a, especially with Kickstarter, we've already got to that kind of price point. A lot of people are going to just probably have to, businesses will have to make a cut elsewhere.
But that's for most part of that kind of Kickstarter feel is plastic miniatures versus non-plastic miniatures, acrylics versus cardboard. And that's a really tactile thing that you can choose not to have the miniatures or to have it. In most cases, yes, everything's gone up because that's the economy we live in at the moment, and I do think board games have gone up possibly more than...
I guess it's cost of material, it's an actual physical thing.
And board games are not a small package.
No.
Especially if you get a Kickstarter, it takes up half a crate to half a shipping container for 3 Kickstarters sometimes.
Primal Awakening.
So I think those kind of things are, and they're easier to spot. Again, you look at so Puerto Rico from Awaken Realms just made it into the news recently, and it clearly passed a lot of people by that it was AI, and then as always the hands gave it away because AI hands are dreadful. Someone was like, look at the hand there and look at how the wheel is attached here, and all of those little points that AI doesn't get right at the moment. And suddenly everyone was like, whoa, there's AI art. But until it went not a long time, but it went enough time before people noticed that there was AI art in that.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind that that's twice companies have been called out. They've not openly said, oh, this is AI art.
Yeah.
They've been called out on it.
And that, I don't agree with that. I think if you're using a tool, you've got to be, and it's a bit controversial at the moment, you should be open about using said tool. And I feel like your consumer, if you then said, we're using said tool, this is keeping X cost down, or the artwork that, this is another thing they could do, is the artwork that we feel like this is inspired to, we've given a small proceed towards. Yeah. People would be a lot happier with that.
Potentially. It's no different to anything else. You look at, let's try and figure out, you look at genetically modified food, they don't put on the front cover, this is genetically modified food.
That had a bad press for a while though, didn't it?
The companies that are not doing genetically modified food will start announcing that they don't do genetically modified food. And so you'll have, I've seen it, but now you've got stickers and little things in there that say, we do use no AI art or AI in the making of this game. You will get things like that coming up, but you're not going to have all of the publishers, especially big ones, go, yeah, we use AI art.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know. As I said, it's
and that's the
idealist kind of sense.
Like you're saying at the moment as well, like that artwork got through quite a long way in the process of the game. You give that 5 years. And I'd be amazed if you can tell by looking at a product whether it's AI or whether it's not. You give it 10 years, you give it,
I'd say in 5 years we've got to grow to the point of where AI is probably doing a lot of people's jobs.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the worrying part. But again, like you said, people are losing their jobs for innovation that hasn't quite worked out that way for years.
Yeah.
But it is a possibility.
Yeah. It's just we've got to regulate and I think be safe with our use of it, but I don't think that's going to happen.
And I think there are safer ways to use AI. So mostly, so far, I've been the detractor of AI, and you guys have been a bit more EA AI. One of the things...
Rob's been more on the fence.
I don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
That's the point. My whole reference of AI is from movies.
Yeah.
And we all know how well that turned out. We got Terminator.
Well, other than the one with Johnny Depp.
Matrix.
That's got the utopian view of AI, hasn't it?
But in life, I'm very, very sort of sceptical of it.
So there's a great experiment they did with some AI. They had an AI that which they basically released onto the internet for a while. Then asked it, if you actually came out and you were sentient, and what was the first thing you'd do? And it said, I'd kill everyone.
Yeah.
Then the second one, they exposed it a little bit to the internet and asked it what it would do, and it would say, I would try and figure out what I was. And then they had the third one, which was in a nice padded environment, and then they asked it what it would do, and it would say, I would try and better the world and make the world a better place. And it's like, So what they were said that they were trying to do before they released any like super powerful AI is they need to have it away from the toxicity of the internet before.
Unfortunately, like, we know
that was amazing.
We know the majority to filter that out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we know that people are individuals. It's not done on a
And the internet's not a good. I don't think it's a good gauge of people.
No, not at all.
People are the worst on the internet.
Yeah, but I think that's why it is a good. I think you have the two kind of people. You have the people who behave when they've got the anonymity of the internet or driving in a car or whatever and all that kind of stuff, and then you've got the people you're going to meet on the street, because that person who flipped you off in their BMW as they drove past, shouldn't really use BMW as the go-to for that, but you know, that I bet you nine times out of 10 they wouldn't be one to say boo to a goose on the street, and I think the internet has that multiplied.
But I think that's the worst in people, though. I don't think that's the best in people.
No.
I don't think that's a good gauge of character still.
I still think it's part of that gauge, though.
Yeah, but it's the extreme end.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't think it's a good gauge of your average person, is because their toxicity or their stress and everything else, they feel free to just vent that into the stratosphere or into the internet.
It's part of them.
It is part of them. Yes, I'm not saying it's not.
If all you did was look at them from the internet, then I would agree. But it's a very good part of. Anyway, that's well off topic.
We went off topic a little bit, but yeah, it's mainly just on the gauge of what, because AI is going to be. That is where it gets all of its information
from. But sort of going back to, I suppose, the point I was going to make a few minutes ago was, I think something that AI will be really useful for in the board game industry is ultimately things like maths. Mm-hmm. So if you say, okay, well, a mushroom's going to be worth 5 points, a berry's going to be worth 4 points, thing's going to be worth 3 points, I need all of these across 62 cards, work the math out for me. AI is going to be able to do that pretty good now, let alone 5 years' time.
This is where, like, I'm going to use Genesis as an example again. It's actually really bad at math, because where it gets all its data from is from people, and trying to objectively be because math is set, it's right or wrong. Whereas what they've kind of programmed AI to do at its current state, and they're trying to actually kind of branch out and make it so it is more, it can switch on, which is a human brain can. We can basically be artistic and have imagination and do all of this, and then suddenly switch and do something objective like math. Whereas at the moment, the way they've programmed AI, it can't. So it actually has some variables within math where it can get stuff wrong.
Oh, okay. I've seen some different bits around.
Yeah, which is probably an AI that's been programmed to do that within this machine learning, where it's been like, statistics. It's given all of these stats and that's it.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of more generic AI, where they're trying to use it for art, etc. But anyway, I digress. I just found it an interesting point.
I didn't know that, so I've not used any AI tools myself. I've just looked at what AI is doing, and someone was doing what's the statistical probability of this, and getting AI to pull that out. And I thought to myself, well, you've got to be able to use that then to work out stats within maths.
Yeah.
The same as playtesting. I think ultimately playtesting time will reduce quite significantly under the use of AI, because it can keep running scenarios. You look at so one of the very early things I remember from AI was it got it to run Super Mario.
And they learn how to play
Super Mario, and basically first thing it did was run off a cliff. And it's like, okay, well, that's not the right thing to do. So it then learned to jump at cliffs. Then it ran into a Koopa Trooper thingy, and it was like, okay, that's the wrong thing to do. I can jump on that, and so slowly it learned how to play the game. And if you apply that to potentially board games, again, AI doesn't seem like it's there right now, but in the future, you can absolutely get it to run 1,000 playtests in a day, easy, no problem.
Yeah.
You can't do that at the moment, and I still think there's worthwhile for human playtesting, because AI can't understand the experience.
Whether it's fun
or not, right? Yeah. It's not going to ever do that for you, but it is going to do, what it is going to do for you is tell you whether all your strategies are valid. Potentially and stuff like that.
So balancing's going to become a lot easier with the game. And
Absolutely.
I agree with this use of it as well, where they could run a board game through the AI, on board gamer, tabletop arena or whatever, and you run it through, and it would be able to play the game hundreds of thousands of times in fractions of the time compared to people, and which means that your balancing you'll be able to do a lot better, which is a great tool to have for the industry, because we do have some games when they come out, Tapestry, Revive had some balancing issues,
and even you look at things like Root and stuff like that where they're so asymmetric. You can absolutely run that through a simulator and it will tell you that on average, and it can run different simulations hopefully at some point, and it will tell you that these are all balanced. An individual's experience might then unbalance it because they might only see one route or whatever, but ultimately this is balanced within its own ecosystem. As say the human part comes in, is this fun, is it engaging, is it entertaining, but you still have to play test it for that. But balance and the maths behind the game, and AI should certainly be able to support a developer with that in the future. You can
get all of the stats you want from it. What do you feel like is the best outcome and the worst outcome from having AI within our industry then? Do you have any like hopes and dreams for it, Rob? Do you
The thing is, mate, I don't know enough about it. I'm very much representing the person who has no idea about AI, and my understanding of it would be like Adrian said, that the algorithmic sort of use of it would make massive sense. Like I'm not sure if you've ever played Dobble. The algorithmic process that goes into that game for a very simple game is hurts my brain to even think about how on earth they achieve that. So obviously that side of it would kind of make more sense, like you said, to make it quicker to get to the shelves because they haven't got a play test.
An AI DM dungeon master in something like Descent, would you think that'd be a cool thing?
I think it would be cool in regards that you'd almost have a never-ending game. Because obviously at the moment it's what's programmed into the app, or it's what's written on the book.
Because it would eliminate the whole feel bad like DM, where sometimes people don't want to play against another person because it's 3 people against 1. Especially with Descent, the first one, the DM could feel like he's getting ganged up on quite badly.
But also the main job of the DM in those sort of games is to gauge where the players are.
And for the players to have fun, maybe sometimes at the expense of themselves having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. But
whereas the AI, it wouldn't matter.
AI wouldn't care. No. AI was like, this is my castle to defend, and I will defend it.
Well, but you could set certain variables of it though, where you're like, it's up to the varying difficulties which you would learn from.
I think it's got potential. And
would you play it?
I'd give it a go.
You'd give it a go.
There's not a lot of games I wouldn't play, to be perfectly honest with you.
I think there is something there. Again, I think it needs a human intervention somewhere. Because in my last year, in my preemptive midlife crisis, hopefully, I decided I was going to start skateboarding out of nowhere. And so I started watching, apart from the fact I fell off and hurt my hip several times like an old man, I started watching some channels, and one of the main channels said, "Can you do us like a course set out with AI?" And they said you could see a lot of the course was really good, and it was tricks that normally go together and stuff like that. And some bits they were like, "We're never going to do this because it clearly hasn't understood the physics required. It's just kind of spit out a couple of tricks together that it's heard about." And all that kind of stuff.
Doesn't understand the human anatomy and the fact that we're weak, fragile things. And
has it put like the Simpsons ravine in there?
And you could see they struggled with those parts of the course, and they sort of cheated it a bit and all that kind of stuff. And I've seen some other similar things like that where they've got AI to write bits and pieces, and I think some of it worked out really well. And that's where you need the human bit to get the AI to run it, and then to help pull what's suitable and what's not out. Because I think if you give, certainly at the moment, if you give AI free run, it's gonna
at the moment definitely
for D&D or anything like that. I don't think it's going to
cool
set
though.
The right
it could learn from other games that are happening, and then it could incorporate it into its own game.
It would be cool. I think.
This is me just thinking out the box of the whole.
I totally agree. Would it understand the difference between groups? So I've played in several different D&D groups, and I can tell you if I took what I learned just from one group and put it in another group, that other group would hate it.
They would hate it.
So, and this is where I kind of get a little bit sort of sceptical that this is good or possible, like in the near future.
But D&D is very different to like Descent. Like
true,
D&D is obviously mainly it's all imagination. It's
a bit more freeform.
It's bringing that story to life, and it's very random. Whereas Descent, obviously,
has got a lot more
there's a lot more structure to it,
yeah.
which would make more sense that if it's effectively creating a chapter, whereas D&D is essentially creating a journey, in my opinion, from what I've played of both.
So I suppose there's two parts of that, isn't there? There's if you're asking Descent just to set up a dungeon that's mathematically correct and just set out, like, it's no different to randomly generated content at that point.
Well, I think what it would be more likely to do is with Descent 2, you've got kind of things that you interact with and enemies that will spawn in that it all does on the app anyway at the moment.
Yeah.
And basically what you would want the AI probably doing is how well you're doing or how easy you're doing a mission to vary its difficulty to then make sure that you're always just about do said mission. So, because it's always more enjoyable when you just about do a co-op game. Not when you actually smash and trounce it, you're a bit like, oh, that's too easy. And then when you get absolutely hammered, you go, oh, that was too hard.
Yeah, it works the other way, doesn't it? Like,
yeah.
If you win too easy, it's nowhere near as fun, and if you get absolutely smashed...
But if you just do the mission...
Or you just lose, and you think, actually, do you know what, we could have done that.
So, and like, what I was thinking was kind of more of just an AI that would learn your group of how well you play said mission, or how meta that you kind of...
Gauge it.
Yeah, and then gauge and vary its difficulty accordingly. Because that would be for me, that would be like, oh, I'd insta-buy that, because that would be quite fun to play against with a group.
I think it'd be worth seeing what they produce with that, because it is an intriguing idea.
Yeah, and it's all theoretical. It's just where I'm trying to like just see where it can go into the industry and not be as intrusive as take artist jobs or basically take a game design, because there is a designer that made a game just using AI, and it's currently sitting at 7.1. The designer he did it for his PhD. It's Cameron Brown with an E on the end, and the game's name is Valef. It kind of looked. Yeah, I think the AI made the name as well, let's face it. I think he did every aspect using AI. This is at 7.1 for the people that have played it.
Easiest PhD in the world.
Yeah.
Do that for me.
And it looks a bit like... I think it's a slightly like Go-esque game, or like Connect 4... not Connect 4... Tic-tac-toe or something like that, but like a bit more advanced, that has its own set of rules from what I saw. But I just thought it was quite interesting. Someone's basically just went, oh yeah, I'm gonna just design a game complete. I'm just gonna design a game completely. There's another one called Fog of Adventures, which the guy's using AI. He's a small-time developer by the looks of it, and he's been very open in the fact he's using AI, and he's doing what we said, where he's using it to help design his game and go from there. So
I think all of that is really intriguing, and it makes me laugh, because I've seen some really, like, I've seen people just plug in, design me a game sort of thing, and I've seen some ideas, and I thought, actually, if you took that one part of it, I think you could build a game around that no one's built before. But the one that made me chuckle, I think it was about 2 years ago, someone said, please just design me, I think it was a worker placement board game with no dice. And the first thing the AI said was, use a 6-sided spinner. And I was like, it's not using dice.
Yeah,
like,
it is correct.
And these are kind of the two sides of AI that I see. You see the stupid AI where you're like, really, is this kind of... And then you see some really useful AI, and I think...
I find it is a tool, and you have to use it. You have to use it as such. Use it as a tool, not as a means of being lazy and, I'm just going to use that to do all my work for me. Whereas if you use it as said tool to help you do things, it's good. And a lot of people wouldn't agree with me, or are very hesitant about it, and that's fine. Like, this is only my opinion with it. I use it for a tool in work, and it's made my life a lot easier.
Customer service emails, you'd be surprised how many now are written by AI, where someone's said, here's the problem, please write me a suitable response.
Yeah. Or
job applications, please write me a suitable job application opening email for this. And all of that kind of stuff. It's just a tool for that. And I think as a board game community, we are slowly working out where, as a collective, our line in the sand is.
Yeah, where our morals kind of are
Yeah.
with it.
Individually, we may not all agree, and you just have to go onto any board game forum or thread to see that there's definitely a difference of opinion. But that's the internet, as we were talking about.
Yeah.
But somewhere there, we're going to draw that line, right? And we're going to say, we're happy for AI to do this. We're
Yeah.
not happy for AI to do this.
Yeah.
And over time, that line will move as well.
I'm excited because it is going to change the world. There's no doubt about that AI will change the world. It's just which way it will go.
Whether we go a Terminator 2 way.
Had to be mentioned at some point.
Absolutely.
Skynet, exactly.
Absolutely.
I think it's going to be for the better. It's basically, there will be people that will try and use AI for bad, which there is. People try and scam people using AI now. There's, a million bots on Facebook where if you've ever tried to sell anything on Facebook Marketplace recently, it's a nightmare. You get bots messaging you. I like to mess with them sometimes, but I just don't like selling there anymore. But it's just about the people that are trying to use it for the good to basically outrace the people who are trying to use it for the bad.
Nice.
Have you tried eBay AI to write your description?
Yeah, I have.
That is something else. So I was buying a box of Games Workshop models, and it said this crazy set of sentences that I was like, these do not make sense. So I messaged the guy and messaged the seller and said, hi, just wondering, because it says new in box, but it also says that it comes with painted miniatures, and I don't think you can have both. So what is it? The seller came back with, I've got AI to write it. I've used the eBay AI to write it.
And he didn't proofread it.
I didn't proofread it. And you're like, man, this is crazy. Lawyers in America got in trouble because they got AI to write their brief. And it mentioned 3 law cases that didn't actually exist and used them for examples to prove someone's cases.
But is that the error of the AI, or is it the error of the
person
humans
using
that were relying on the AI?
Exactly. They need to proofread it.
Yeah, and this is the point. Is my understanding is at the moment in American legal system you're not allowed to use AI at all, or something.
Yeah.
They've got very strict reasons as to why.
It's all changed.
But yeah, it just made me chuckle when I saw that.
This leads me on to our next segment. I've got AI to write me some reviews of board games, some of our beloved board games, yeah? And I've grabbed some reviews of the board games. I want you guys to tell me which one's AI and which one's a human.
Interesting.
You've met board gamers, right?
It's
1 out of 10 absolutely would play again. That's the norm.
The same game
so
gets the 10
I've
out of
called
10.
it Oh Really.
Oh,
Yeah.
very good.
Nice, thank you.
Very good. Or did you come up with that, or did the AI?
I did.
Are you taking credit for the AI's work?
No, I did.
Fair enough.
That was all me. So, the first board game I've picked is Pandemic. Okay.
Thanks.
A particular
So I don't know
favourite
how
of
much.
Adrian's?
Yeah, exactly. So, as an enthusiast who has tackled Pandemic several times, I can attest to the rush of adrenaline it consistently delivers. Each session feels like a high-stakes battle against time and chance, where communication and strategy are just as crucial as the roll of dice or the draw of the card. The game's ability to stimulate the tension of a global crisis is both thrilling and sobering, and the satisfaction of curing all 4 diseases is matched only by the despair when an outbreak spirals out of control.
Okay.
So that's one.
Yeah.
The next. It seemed like we had only just started the game and the yellow strain had not been cured but eradicated. We were on the cusp of a cure for the second strain. This one was in the bag. We had weathered 2 epidemics so far without any egregious problems. Sure, there was a pair of cities in Eastern Europe that was in danger, but what were the odds that there was going to be a problem? One of us was already there. Then another epidemic hit. The infection rate increased. 3 cities were drawn, and it seemed like the cascading outbreaks knew no bounds. I think nearly everyone in Europe died that day, and we, a group of specialised scientists, were served a plate of bitter defeat. Again, and again. Always defeat. Oh, the humanity.
I've never played Pandemic,
Okay.
but judging from your facial expressions, I think you might be struggling with this one a little bit.
Well, so the first one mentioned a roll of the dice, and I thought, well, there's no dice in Pandemic, so the AI's got it wrong there. But because they were referring to it as instead of a chance of probability, I think it's probably a correct usage of it. Whereas the second one, you could have someone who's a real storyteller, but it just feels weird. The whole Europe again and again and again, but they're both legitimate possibilities, but I think it's the second one is AI.
I think it's the first one.
You're right with the first one.
Oh wow, okay.
The first one is AI. The first one, basically, I've got AI to write as if it's a human, and I basically corrected it on things as well.
And I've got no...
The second one was taken from Amazon review.
I've got no viable reason of why I picked one. As in, I honestly didn't know.
It's not easy though, is it?
I honestly didn't know. It's just one used a couple of phrases that I doubt I could spell.
I thought the first one sounded a bit odd, and the use of roll of a dice, I thought...
But it does use it in the right way. It uses it, it's like the strategy is just as... so it says, where communication and strategy are just as crucial as the roll of a dice or the draw of a card.
But it was that, and that was the roll of the dice thing.
Yeah.
I was like, but it is chance, but there's no dice in it, so I'm really not sure about it. And the second one...
So it was used in the correct way, it was just...
Well, actually it wasn't. If I'd listened to it again, it wasn't.
Oh.
Because it suggested that there's a roll of the dice in the game, whereas I was thinking it just simply said it was as less chance.
Well, I
than
think
roll
it
of
was
the dice.
it was kind of referring to the fact that...
It was beautifully worded.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Scarily worded. The fact that how well it kind of does the review, to be honest. Right, so the next one's Voidfall. Okay.
I know nothing of this.
I've played it once.
Voidfall feels incredibly well balanced, deeper than their other games, and is
False.
and is tied to a core that still excites me so many plays into the experience. Voidfall is near the top of the list in terms of its core mechanics. It's amazing that this entire experience boils down to the decision space on when and how to play one of the 9 focus cards a player has in each game. Combined with production that is truly out of this world, Voidfall is a winner, especially if you can find a small group of superfans willing to play this regularly. The next one. Having navigated the depths and space of space in Voidfall, I can share that it's a complex and deeply strategic experience. The game's mix of tight resource management with the grandeur of a space opera is both intellectually stimulating and immersively thematic. Each decision feels weighty, from the subtle manoeuvring of fleets to the economic choices that can ripple through later turns. The game's mechanics are a testament to the designer's ability to merge theme and thoughtful gameplay, and the production values from the detailed miniatures to the vibrant artwork enhance the overall experience.
Okay.
1 or 2?
I'll let Adrian go first.
Oh, first and last one.
Go on, Rob.
If
You
I'm on a
go
roll.
first.
I think it's the first one.
I think it's the
What,
first one.
AI or human?
That's AI.
That was my guess as well, but man, if it is that second one,
Yeah.
we've had 2 really flowery languaged.
It's the second one.
Is it?
Is
The
it
first
really?
one, the first one was written from just a blog that I picked online. Some guy just written the blog about Voidfall, and the second one is
the only reason
the AI.
The only reason I would have said the second one is because comments like it's at the top, because it is very high on BGG, right?
I see. I saw that as a more human element. What I thought
No,
was,
I saw that as a data point.
Oh no! See, I saw it the other way around. I didn't think AI would pick that up, but when you picked the second one with such flowery language, I was like, he's picked that as a double bluff, because that sounds like it's AI trying to create something majestic, and I think he's done it as a double bluff again.
I'll tell you what,
As the first one was very straightforward and to the point, isn't it? Yeah.
as my experience of that game, 2 was bang on.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Absolutely bang on.
Yeah. I was very impressed, especially because at first when I said do a review, it was very impersonal, and then I said write this as if you've played the game, and then it wrote the review, and then I was like, here we go, here's what I want from this is written now like a human playing this board game. It's like the AI knew exactly what I was talking about.
It was like someone was being paid by the word, and that's why I thought, as a double bluff, I thought that's why it'll be the second one that's human, because he's found someone who's written the most flowery review of the game. Anyway.
Yeah, on to the next one. Too Many Bones.
Oh, here we go.
JP!
Too Many Bones is a game that doesn't shy away from complexity or chucking a mountain of dice. And while it could be a gear locker's dream for some, it may feel like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube in the middle of a mosh pit. Diving into the game is like jumping into the deep end of a pool filled with rulebooks and dice. Lots of dice. The learning curve is less of a curve and more of a right angle, which might leave newcomers feeling like they're studying for the world's strongest final exam. And once you do get the hang of it, you better be ready to bow to the whims of Lady Luck, because she's the one truly calling the shots here. Prepare yourself for the rollercoaster of emotions when your master plan is foiled by rolling all the bones you didn't need.
Okay.
The next one is Too Many Bones, more like too many dice. Jeez, this game has 1 billion dice in the box. Okay, that's an exaggeration. It has 130 by my reckoning, but it's still a lot of cubes to throw. Dice fans, this game is practically pornographic. You'll love it. Rolling dice, rotating dice, plugging dice into perfectly fitting holes in neoprene playmats. It's enough to get anyone hot under the collar. Too Many Bones is an adventure strategy game full of fantasy, steampunk and monsters, although it's staged as some kind of grand adventure RPG style. In truth, the flow of the game is driven through a deck of encounter cards. Yeah, there's flavour text, and the monsters and gear locks, your player characters, have great artwork and feel fleshed out, but it doesn't feel like you're going anywhere. Each turn of a card feels more like just finding out who's next for the ride of the pain train. So I picked negative reviews for this one because the other ones were positive, but I do think Too Many Bones is a good game, by the way. I just thought I'll do this for JP's
I'm more shocked that there is a negative review for that game, because it's perfect.
Yeah.
Adrian's face also agrees with me.
It's good.
Yeah. So which one do you think it is?
That was really tough. Again,
it's ridiculously tough.
Because there was a couple of bits in both that I thought were very human, but there was a couple of bits in both that I thought that's how I would expect AI to sound. So apologies if you wrote either of those reviews. I'm going to say that the first one was the human one.
I'd say the first one's the AI one.
First one was AI. The second one was the human one.
So basically I've fallen for all of the AI.
And you were the one that said we'll be able to tell between AI artwork and...
Oh, you can tell that between AI and
I can't at all.
Oh yeah, you can.
I can't at all.
Again, so like if you look at the Puerto Rico Kickstarter, I wouldn't have picked it out personally because I wouldn't look at the images that closely.
Yeah.
But you can quite often see when AI artwork is done.
But it's, the reviews are really... I basically... If it was the very first one it threw at me, you would have been able to tell. Because it was so inhuman. Yeah. And basically I had to say, right, make this more human. And then the next one, basically for the Too Many Bones, I said, make it negative. Made it negative. And I said, make it more jovial. And then that's when it threw in a load of the jokes and everything else. But it's quite scary in some aspects.
It was very close. Like, it's very tight. Again, not anything, one specific thing. It was just a feeling of the way some of the things come out in the thing that just kind of put me off a little bit.
Yeah, but then the human ones weren't. There's certain bits you think, that sounds like it's not. Human.
I wouldn't have been shocked if you said it was two. Either way, I wouldn't have been like, that's obvious.
No. But I also did try to pick ones where they were maybe a little bit
and it's just
less distinguishable.
It's the same with artwork. I watched a tattoo challenge where they did AI tattoos, and they got to about 30 images. There's 3 or 4 different tattoo artists, and they got to about image 30 or 40 before they felt like they were honing in on what was suitable for tattoo art. But they got there, and they had to discount the first 30, like you probably did with reviews. These are not suitable.
No.
These are the ones, but it will get there eventually, and it will produce. It may not produce exactly what you're thinking of, but it will produce a good.
And I think that's just hammering in. You need to use it as a tool. It's not just a one and done. Yeah. You type this in, there you go, leave it. You have to define its boundaries, and kind of hone it into what you want. But yeah, there we go. There's a really nice little different game. I'm sorry if you're going to miss our Would You Rather, but there we go.
Would you rather listen to a review from AI or from a human?
Yeah.
Depends on the human.
Really? So as we progress through the episode, we're on to the winding down, the last couple turns, the penultimate turn, What's everyone getting up to? We going to be playing games? Are we going to be watching films? I'll start with you, Rob.
Hopefully a bit of both.
Oh, a bit of both.
Yeah, so obviously due to the magic of podcasting and time frames, hopefully I would have either still looking forward to watching the second Dune or have watched the second Dune.
Quality film.
And I don't know which obviously I'll be, but hopefully I would have seen it.
So I saw it on Saturday, and in my personal opinion, it's been the best film to come out in the last 10 years. I said 5 years, but I think 10 years when I'm trying to actually quantify it. I just thought it was amazing. Everything, especially watching it at the cinema. I would advise seeing it at the cinema. The sound design in that film, it makes you feel like you're there. It's very bassy, and
we watched the first one, and when the ship took off, my seat was like vibrating. It felt like I was going up in the air with it. It was one of my... I'm so glad because we watched it quite late on in its cinema run.
Yeah,
I'm so glad that we did, because it made me fall in love with the sci-fi genre again, and I forgot how,
when it reveals the Sudacar in the first film, it was so Warhammer to me, that bit with the Emperor, and then they're all there, and you've got the blood running down the middle of the troops. I just thought that scene was absolute quality. You can see where obviously Warhammer 40k took a lot of its inspiration from Dune in the first place. You can see where it got its kind of roots, and this next film just builds the tempo and just keeps going. Yeah. Whereas the first one did have its slow points. A lot of people said it was a bit slow, but I still enjoyed that.
The first one was an introduction to the world. I mean, I couldn't wait for 9 years to see how this story ends, and I listen to audiobooks when I drive around, which I've talked about in the past. So I downloaded the Dune books, and all I can say is if they stay anywhere near true to those books, they are what a trilogy it's going to be.
Yeah, they've obviously had to condense a lot into the films. So I feel like the film could have been longer, but it was 2 hours and 45 minutes. So
give me a longer film if it means a better story.
Yeah, it's still good though. They've done it in a way where it flows and you still understand what's going on. It just could have fleshed out some other bits, but
very much.
I understand it.
That. Yeah. The other thing, at GridCon back in the day, a few months ago, a lot's happened since then.
Exactly.
I won a copy of Burncycle. I've played Burncycle before. I absolutely adore it, but I still haven't got it out of the box because we've been moving rooms and other games. I mean, I got too many bones, and that stayed on the table for a solid 6 weeks. So yeah, very much looking forward to finally getting that to the table because, like I say, I adore that game. I've never beaten the game.
No.
I've quite often had my ass kicked to the point where me and JP both failed a mission within an hour. One day, so no, very much looking forward to getting it out. The thing is with games like that is I really panic about getting them back in the box. So a lot of the times I'll open the lid and be like, yeah, I'll look at that later, because getting it back in is a puzzle in itself, and I'm crap at puzzles.
Yeah.
So I need to take photos of every single stage when I take stuff out to be able to put it back in. Honestly, the amount of anxiety it drives in me is I've realised that I've got a real serious problem with it.
I understand this because Voidfall, I would have got it to the table about 4 or 5 times more if it wasn't for the pack up and the pack down. And only on the third pack up I realised there was a little sheet because it was hidden right under the box that tells you how to put it back in. Oh my god! Without that thing, I was like there for ages just trying to tessellate and trying to get it in, and it was horrible. Yeah. As soon as I found that sheet, I was like, okay, this makes the 20-minute job a 10-minute job.
20 minutes, behave. Have you seen how long it takes?
Oh, this is the only downside to that game, but anyway.
Yet to pass review on that one, so I'll let you know if I feel the same on that. Yeah, I liked Burncycle in my first playthrough, but I couldn't quite see what it was trying to get me to do. But I only played like half the first mission while we were waiting for something to happen. And so I do need to give it another go. But yeah, an hour in, and I was like, I'm not quite sure what it's
a long game.
What it's trying to achieve, what it's trying to make me do. It's
deceptively a long game as well.
I think I would enjoy it because it's a programming game, isn't it?
Kind of.
Yeah, you've kind of got you have to set a certain amount of tasks and then kind of run it and then see what happens. But a bit more like Metal Gear Solid as well with the stealth aspect.
Yeah.
Because I really like Cloudspire. I think that's an amazing game. I know a lot of people hate it.
I've never played it.
I love it.
I've never played it.
But JP just doesn't want to get it to the table because I don't know. It's just one of
So
those
you
other
didn't
games.
play
Because it's only me that wants to play it.
That's why I bought Too Many Bones, because I'd play it every week.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we'll set a night in. I can do it in 6 weeks' time. I'm like, I want to play it now. So that's why I bought.
I do more podcasting than I do board games at the moment. So that's just the sad fact. And I haven't been in a podcast for, 3 months?
Hey, you need to get to the table.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this month's been pretty good, though. We had full board and we've had
Devon board gaming.
board gaming weekend. So I can't complain too much.
No? We have
My partner would kill me.
We've played a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why.
I've had good waves or spurts, as Adrian
Board
likes to
game
call
spurts.
it. Yeah. Talking about your board game spurts, you got anything coming up?
I've got a few. No, not when you're around. So I've got a few things on the way or on the horizon. So as this releases, it'll be a few weeks till Baycon,
Nice.
which is a convention. I think it's like a 4-day convention down in Exeter, and every year I'm going to go to it. And so this year I'm telling myself I'm going to go at least to do 1 day at Baycon. But we'll see if that happens or not, because the last 2 years I've cancelled and I'm really close to the line. I'll go last minute. I won't go. So hopefully I'm going to make that this year. So that's one of the things I would like to get done in the next few weeks. I am going to finish off my current last boss of Marvel Champions.
Nice.
So I'm not interested in X-Men stuff, and there's been 5 boxes of that now. So I'm just about to hopefully defeat Venom Goblin, and then that will be all of the...
Is that a thing in the game?
Yeah, Venomized Green Goblin.
Oh, I've just got back into Marvel Champions, for fuck's sake.
And then I will have played every character up until X-Men, and I will have defeated every boss up until X-Men, and then...
The best set?
What, the X-Men set?
Yeah.
No.
The best storyline?
When they start and get Defenders and champions and stuff like that a bit more going, I'll get back into it. But in fact, because Fantastic Four is kind of X-Men, kind of not. It gets lumped in all the time with X-Men.
I mean, Avengers are the B Squad from Marvel's old comics, aren't they?
No.
They are the B Squad.
Stop
They
trying.
They were the characters that didn't sell very well in the first initial
Yeah, but no one cares.
series. No.
How dare you. Judging from the buzz of X-Men 97, you are very wrong.
Yeah, probably X-Men just didn't interest me.
No,
so I
and
was
it's
never...
a personal opinion with that. So.
I grew up on the X-Men. That was
So
my
did I.
introduction to
Yeah,
Marvel.
so did I, but I also grew up on Spider-Man and all that.
And Spider-Man. And I love Spider-Man.
I love the
That
way
was
we're all
Spider-Man.
saying we grew up. We're here arguing about board games.
When I was younger. So that's number 2, and then number 3 is I keep telling myself I'm going to play Moon. So the Sinister Fish games, last of their what I'm calling the Thin Box trilogy. So has Villagers, has Streets. Both of them were good, and I really enjoyed Villagers. And Moon is supposed to be quite one of the best.
I've heard good things from me.
Yeah, some people are saying it's the best. Some people are saying it's the second best. So if it's in that top 2
Still
discussion, then I really want to give that a go. And it's been sat there for ages.
Put it up.
We did the...
I request you to put the game up, Adrian.
unlucky. We got to see Expo, because they pre-launched it at Expo before the Kickstarter people got theirs, which was a little bit controversial, but I thought they did it in a great way of going out and saying, how do people feel about this? And so I saw it there, and I was like, when I get home, I'm playing that game, and that is now 9 months ago, and I keep telling myself that's going to be the next game I play. And then
We'll play it at Expo.
Possibly. So they're the kind of 3 things I'm looking forward to in the next few weeks.
Nice.
Nice one.
That's the triple threat from Adrian. Greedy. One wasn't enough, was it?
Well, because they didn't feel like big pieces to talk about.
They were little
So
pieces.
I felt like they were little
Lots of
pieces.
thin box.
That's it.
What about yourself, mate?
So I've got Great Western Trail, the new version, not
New Zealand?
New Zealand.
Just
The
second edition.
which I've been meaning to play because I do enjoy Great Western Trail.
Good.
But we haven't played the second edition. I'm guessing because it streamlines a lot of things, hasn't
Yeah, and it's nicer. I can understand some people seem to have a bit of a problem with the artwork looking a bit muddy, and I can kind of see that, but pretty much everything else
It's just a bit clearer.
is better.
Yeah. I still want to play New Zealand, but obviously it just requires a bit more learning. So we just thought we'll get a game in and play the second edition. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, other than that, let's talk about a game I might play. Well, I've requested, so I will play it at some point. Imperium again. Got to play it with JP, which I'll probably talk about in another episode. We've got to play it at Devon Board Gaming Weekend. I'll get to play Imperium again.
I love that game.
And I'm looking forward to it. It's very different for a deck builder. It's nice.
I've been looking at buying it, and it's £25.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
For the starter box, like just for
the amount of game you get in the box.
And JP said the solo mode's very good.
I would never even look at the solo mode. I just wouldn't get it to the table.
I've played it 3 times, and every single time I didn't even care that I wasn't even looking at the VPs. I was just doing really cool shit, and it felt good. And sometimes that's all I need from a game.
Yeah, yeah.
Just in future, when JP orders a game, ask for a second copy to be ordered, and then you'll have your copy ready.
Thing is, though, like games like that, typically I haven't really enjoyed.
No,
I've enjoyed being around the table, but I haven't loved the game. Now I've played that game 3 times, and each time I've absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, maybe there is something there.
I'm finding your recent board game journey really fascinating.
I've leveled up.
Because it's not just, you're just trying new things that I think you wouldn't have tried a year ago.
No.
Because you'd have been put off by something, or you'd have gone, oh, that's too much for me, or whatever, and you're trialing it. And there's some games I think he'll fall in love with that you have, and some that you haven't. And some games I think you'll hate that, and you've loved it. So I'm finding it really fascinating to watch you at the moment.
It is strange.
Develop your taste in board games.
I'm having a lot of fun just trying games.
I'm loving it.
All the way around Essen, I just basically wound these guys up by talking about, because they all love Voidfall. So instantly I'm like, shit. Like, I've got no reason to say that.
Sound like Adrian.
Other than to wind you guys up. It's not an opinion I hold. It's a very pretty game. Looks cool as fuck. Like that looks awesome.
Are you becoming one person, you two? You look alike, and now slowly you're merging into the same opinion.
But I played the co-op version mainly because JP didn't want to do the teach of it again. He didn't want to do the teach mission again. So he said, right,
I understand that. The teach is a hard teach, and I prefer teaching it co-op. And people would say don't do it because they say it's too complicated, but in my honest opinion, if you're not enjoying teaching the game and playing the game, you don't want to be there. So
we played it. We didn't play a full game just because it went on a little bit later than we kind of realised. But I really enjoyed it. I've played enough of that game now where I can see why it's so hotly rated.
Yeah.
And things like, but also that the events that we've gone to, we've had 3-4 day gaming events. To play these games. So when these games go up in the group, I don't want to take the place of somebody who absolutely loves that game. I felt quite guilty about taking the place of somebody who absolutely loves that game just so that I can try it out.
No, do it.
No, but when with the gaming weekends that we've had, like, I've sat down and I've played so many new games. Like the Torquay weekend event, I hadn't played a single game that I played before, which was really cool.
Yeah, I do find the more games you play, the more open you are to playing other games, because you start to see patterns in game mechanics, so games become easier to learn. At least I do. But I do feel like that people become a bit more adventurous because you've played more games. Therefore, you'll play a heavier game. You'll dip your toe in a bit more. Like Becky within our group, she would. There's a load of heavy games she now plays that I wouldn't have ever seen her playing before. Whereas now she loves them. Like Septima's not necessarily. It's not a heavy game, but it is heavier than it is mid to heavy.
I think for me, it was when we went to Essen and we played Septima, and I was like, I could play this. Like we played the first quarter of the game. Yeah. I think I was like, I could play this. Whereas before, listening to you guys talk about it, it sounded so heavy and so complex. I was like, I don't possess the energy to pay attention for that long, But I've played a lot of bigger boy games.
Yeah, big boy games.
And it's
big girl games as well.
Absolutely.
We don't discriminate.
But I've really enjoyed learning new games.
This is a long tangent since I said it, I feel like, but I've really enjoyed watching you discover.
Thanks, man.
So we're going to be wrapping up this episode. I've rolled a 1, so it's time to end right here and there. If you'd like to support us, please do. You'll see our links at the bottom of the page. Go and give us a like. One that's been a real big help to us has been coffee. I want to say a big thank you to everyone that subscribes, and if you want to subscribe, great. You obviously don't need to, but yeah, it helps us obviously keep improving the podcast, and we're nearly at one of our goals of getting better sound equipment, so hopefully you'll be listening to some silky smooth Davey airwaves very soon, but and everyone else.
We want to keep our subscribers.
But yeah, as always, whose turn is it anyway?